Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. Now I'm going to be doing this tutorial in both Serif's Affinity Photo and then in their older program PhotoPlus. They're pretty similar in how they do it, but there are a slight variation. Now this is an adaptation of a Photoshop tutorial which I saw online, where you make it look like there is a drawing on a sheet of blueprint paper. And to get this, I have got an image of this car, which is a photograph I took, and in a previous PhotoPlus tutorial I cut this car out of the original image and I used it in a different tutorial about putting a car on a beach. So what you really need is a PNG file that has no background, and it can be of a car, a house, or of anything really, but I mean cars and houses I would imagine would probably work best with this sort of blueprint type image, because you wouldn't necessarily be drawing on a blueprint paper, say a landscape for example. I'm not going to go through the details of how you cut out an image, that's a whole new tutorial in itself, but you can either cut out something from one of your images or find a PNG file that you want to use and use that. And then next thing you need is the blueprint background. Now I did a quick search on Google and what have you, and this is the one I found and I liked, partly because I quite like this box down here in the bottom. It's got client and project, which makes it look much more like a proper blueprint type paper, whereas a lot of them all you just get is the basic grid. Now I got this paper from a website called Wallpaper Cave, and they have all sorts of different wallpapers, but you can register and then you can just click in on this thing here to download, and I will add a link for this later on in the description. And when you come to the description on like YouTube or what have you, if it's got the words under in the part of the description that says show more, click on that and you'll probably find the link to this page a bit further down in the description. Wallpaper Cave are also on Facebook. They do have their own page, so you can also get to there via Facebook and go direct to their page and search for blueprint paper that way. So going back to this image here, so once you've downloaded and got your blueprint paper, next what we need to do is get the PNG file of whichever it is that you're going to use. Select all and come to edit, copy, come back to your blueprint paper and then edit, paste. And as you can see now in the layers area here, you've got the background and then you've got the car image. And you come to the move tool and then you can move this and position it how you want. I'm just going to reduce the size slightly, and to do this I want to keep it in proportions the same, so I'm going to hold down the control button and then click and drag a corner, just reduce the size, reposition it, come out of the move tool. So this is where I will want this to be. So the next thing we need to do is to turn it into the drawing, and to do that we're going to come to filters and detect. Now you have three options here. I'm going to go through them all, and then I'm going to press Ctrl Z to go back so you can see the differences. The first one is detect edge. So you have it looking like that. I'll press Ctrl Z to go back. Filters. Detect horizontal edges. And then the last one, which should be pretty similar in how it looks, is detect vertical edges. So you could use whichever one works best for your particular image. As I'm on this one, I will leave it on that one. Now the big difference here is in the Photoshop tutorial, when they do the detect edges, they get a options box where you can move sliders up and down and make the image more detailed or less detailed depending on how you move the sliders. Now in Affinity Photo you are stuck with whatever settings Serif have set for that particular filter. So that is slightly disappointing, because really, I mean, this work does sort of become a bit over detailed for a technical drawing, in my opinion anyway. So in Affinity Photo you don't have this option of lowering and raising the details. In PhotoPlus you do, but we'll get to that a bit later on. So you now have this image which is a bit colourful, so we need to take the colour out of this, and to do this we need an adjustment layer. There's various ways you can do this. You can click on the adjustments tab and do it from there, but I like to keep the layers visible. So what I'm going to do is on this half black and white circle, I'm going to click on that to bring us the options, and I'm going to take it to HSL, which is the hue, saturation and lightness, and I'm just going to drag the saturation all the way down to the bottom to take all the colour out, and then just click on the X to close that. And as you can see, this has affected everything, the background as well as the car image. So I need to make this top layer work on just the car image. So I'm gonna, on the right hand side of this layer here, I'm just going to click and drag it down until the background blue comes back, and I will just release the button, and now that hue saturation adjustment is now attached to the car image and not the background. So next thing I want to do with this is I'll just highlight this layer again, and now I need to make this reversing colours, so the blacks are white and the whites are black. So I will come to layer and invert, so it now looks more like the drawing that we are after. And what I want to do now is I just want to add another adjustment layer, which is going to be the levels layer, and come to levels, and I'm just going to bring the black slider in just to make that the black lines on this a bit more punchy, and I'll click the X on there, and again this has affected the whole image. Now you can, I mean, it has brought the blue out much better in the background, so you could leave it exactly where it is, or if you just want to affect the PNG file, or no, in my case the car image, just again just click and drag it down until it's in the right place, and then you have those 3 layers now all part of this PNG car layer. Now, if anything, this is probably a bit too punchy for a drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the opacity of this layer down a bit to about, in my case it's going to be about 64, 65. And what you can do, if you wanted to bring out the colour of the blue background a bit more, you could highlight the blue background, come to the adjustment layer and have a levels adjustment just affecting the bottom layer. So I could bring the black level slider in to about there. So there you have the finished article of a drawing, or a supposed drawing, on a blueprint background. So I will leave the Affinity Photo part there, and I'll just go away, load up PhotoPlus, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, let us move on now to the PhotoPlus part of this tutorial. So again, I have the same car image and the same blueprint image. So coming back to the car image, I will select all, edit, copy, come to the blueprint image, edit, paste as a new layer. So like before, we have the background layer of the blueprint image, and then the PNG file above that. So I want to resize this again. For this we need the deform tool, and coming to the one of the corners, I'm going to hold down the shift key and just resize this, and then move it to the position I want it to be in. Let's go about there. Right, just come off of that tool there. So like before, we need to find the detect edges, and for this we come to effects, edge. Now you've got a few more options in PhotoPlus. You've got find all, find horizontal, find vertical, glowing edges, and the trace contour, which is not really relevant for what we're going to do here, but I will cycle through all of them, and you use Control and Z to go back and then try the next one. So find all gives you that. So Control and Z, effects, find horizontal, find vertical, which is pretty much the same as horizontal, and glowing edges. And as you can see, like I said before, you do have some adjustments here, so you can alter how much detail you have. So let me just cancel that for a second. I can't remember. I think that might be the only option where you have, yeah, that is the only option where you have a chance to alter how much detail is in the image. So if you raise the brightness and the sharpness, you can change how detailed an image this is going to be. So the lower the brightness, the more detail there is. Lower the smoothness, brings back even more smoothness. So if you want to make it less detailed image, which is what I'm going to try for here. You can move your sliders accordingly, but you could use any of the other edge detection options. So much like before, we now need to get rid of the colours on this layer. So I'm going to come to the hue saturation adjustment and drop the saturation right the way down. And much like Affinity Photo, this is affecting the whole image, not just the car. So I'm going to right click on this layer, clip to layer below, so it only affects that image. Or you can do, it probably might have been better, would be to merge down so it is part of that layer. Now what we need to do is to invert this, and one of the adjustments down here is invert. So I'll click on that. So again, this has affected the whole layer, but again, what I do is I'll just do straight down to merge down, and it will merge it to that top layer. So as you can see, this now looks more like a drawing than the Affinity Photo one does, probably because it's a lot less detailed. I will add a levels adjustment just to bring back a little bit of the darker edges on some of these lines. Again, I do quite like the way this has also affected the blue background, but if you didn't like that, you could again merge this down into this layer. Or what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leave it like that, I think, because I don't think I need to really lower the opacity to get this to look more like a drawing, because this already does look more like a drawing, because some of the lines are more defined, whereas some of the other lines are less defined, as though you haven't quite gotten around to finishing this part of the drawing off. So really that is the end of this look at how to do this in both Affinity Photo and PhotoPlus. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.